Dr. Gupta, could elected representatives be losing credibility because there is no system of checks and balances? For example, if you had a system like the system of recall, as you have in some places, maybe the politician will not take the voter for granted.
It's true. A system of checks and balances needs to be built up. There's no denying that particular fact. But some kind of a self-control, you may be calling it utopian, but at the same time it's very important. I was recently watching on the television the debate which took place in the British Parliament, in the House of Commons, on the riots which took place. Every member constructively, in a short brief form, came forward, whatever wanted to say, and the Prime Minister is responding spontaneously to that. Now, why can't this kind of a system be adopted in our country? Secondly, I seriously thought that when the proceedings in the Parliament are televised, people would conduct themselves. There would be discipline in the Parliament. But I don't find that happening as such.
Some interesting points, Mr. Bidendra Singh. Dr. Gupta is saying that the Parliament have to maintain discipline. That's what he mentioned. Also, maybe the Parliament and institutions like the Parliament are losing credibility because they have not succeeded in keeping the criminals out of its portals. Money power, muscle power still plays a major role.
You see, I feel that ever since the process of criminalization and commercialization of politics and parliamentary system has come into being, gradually parliamentarians and the entire system of parliamentary democracy is losing the confidence of the people. And criminals, who are the most hated people outside, when they are elected to the house and they see them sitting in the august house and then creating situations in the house, you see the dignity and the decorum of the parliament is reduced to a machi market. People are abusing, people are beating each other. So then people think these are the people who have been elected by us, and for this job they have been sent to parliament.
But then why do they send them to the Parliament? Why do they elect them?
They can't think beyond parliament. There is no other system. But I would say that this emergence of Anna's movement, it should not be, it is not, I would say, rather restricted up to Lokpal or Jan Lokpal bill. People had started looking beyond parliament, and this parliamentary system in 65 years has frustrated by and large the people of this country.
Ashutosh,
actually, let me finish.
Yes.
We need to evolve a better system, a new system, and now I think time has come to think of the direct democracy. Direct.
Now, Ashutosh, Mr. Bidendra Singh has made a very pertinent point. He says people have started looking beyond institutions like the Parliament. So, are we heading towards a direct democracy kind of a system? I mean, in Switzerland, for example, you have the referendum system.
In some practice. No, it's not practical, you know. I mean, it's not practical to have a direct democracy in India, a country of 1.2 billion people and so many, you know, diversities.
But isn't that what is happening today?
I think I have some.
All that is unfolding.
See, you remember, like what I'm afraid I'm not agreeing with Devinder Singh ji, with due respect to him. You know, when you remember, like Nehruvian India, again I would like to recall, Nehru would be sitting in the Lok Sabha, he would be listening to all the speeches. Maulantar would say, Mr. Nehru, you sit down. He would sit down. You know, there was a conscious effort to nurture the democratic institutions, parliament, I mean everything, you know, judiciary, everywhere. Now what is happening in today's India? Like since 1972, there has not been any organizational election in Congress. More or less other parties who hold the elections are naam ke vaste. You know, Parliament also, they have allowed Parliament
that's what I'm saying. There is a dichotomy of sorts. You send these kind of people into the Parliament, and once they go there, then you start undermining them.
No, that way Parliament has improved itself. It has become far more representative. If you see in terms of caste, if you see in terms of community, if you see in terms of regions, Parliament, Indian Parliament today is far more representative in terms of presence. But then quality, Like what kind of politicians are able to get elected, and there I think reference has been made about the role of money, corruption, patronage,
yes,
and who are getting tickets. So all these things, all the parties are to be blamed, not only Congress.
I have
let's just hear what Dr. Gupta has to say. Yes, just 1 minute, Mr. Beed.
Looking beyond the parliament is very easy to say that, but to implement it, I think, is a very, very difficult proposition.
No, it's
Why
impossible.
do I say this?
Yes.
Just a moment, just a moment. Why do I say this? What is the alternative open to us? Referendum? I don't think that's the solution, the recipe for this kind of a situation. Therefore, we have to build the parliament in such a manner that we are able to play a more effective role. How do we reform the parliament? How do we elect the people who will really mean business in the parliament?
Electoral reform.
So that's what I'm saying. The parliament itself is to blame if people have taken to the streets then.
Yes.
No, people are looking for legal activism also. I mean, lots of things are happening.
People have taken to the streets not because the parliament has utterly failed in this particular context. You know, the parliament is not being allowed to play its role.
By who?
But say a certain
By the
group of
parliamentarians themselves.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's a parliament.
You know what, I have to just
who are
make
not
one point.
allowing the parliament
Just
to
make one
function.
point. Yeah.
No.
Just 1 minute. Let me hear Dr.
Let
Gupta.
me-
Yes.
See, parliament is not being allowed to play its role when we find that people outside saying that unless you bring this in the Lokpal bill,
Which is also not very democratic.
we will not be allowed.
Which is also not very democratic.
They have a viewpoint. Yes, the viewpoint must be presented in the parliament. You have a system of committees. The matter is to go before the committee.
You know,
everything.
Dr. Gupta, I quite get what you're saying, but the point here is it's been over 60 years. Politicians have been trying to talk about weeding out corruption. The fact is they've done actually nothing to do that. It hasn't happened. Corruption is growing by the day.
I
So I think
assure
people have
you-
lost faith in the
Just a
see,
moment.
I
I
have to
personally
make one
feel,
point.
I feel that the kind of movement which has now begun, no government can afford to sit silent about it. They have to play a vital role, and let the parliament play that role. Have the Lokpal bill, it doesn't mean that including the Chief
So
Justice
somewhere you are crediting the civil society movement for whatever is happening.
focusing the issue and let the issue be allowed.
That's an interesting
And
point.
let's discuss
I'll
who
just come back to you.
constitutes civil society.
Ratandeep,
That is the
what
question.
you think drives the youth to join the civil society movement? Is the youth, when they support the civil society, is their action calibrated? Or do you think a lot of it is basically mobocracy?
Sir, I feel that people are basically frustrated with the kind of things that are happening around in politics. So there are scams after scams, scams after scams. That is why people have taken to streets, because they are frustrated over the entire issue of corruption and scams. And moreover, sir, we appreciate the active and assertive role of civil society, but we, the people, should not allow the civil society to become a leviathan. Otherwise, the democracy itself would degenerate into mobocracy. So the entire population would degenerate into mobocracy. The entire system would be
But do
degenerated.
a lot of people who support the civil society, including the youth, realize what you're saying? Do they support what you're saying? Doesn't look like it, because all of them are out in the
You know,
streets
I
actually
have a
running down.
serious-
So
all
maybe
this-
majority
I have
of
a
the
serious fear in my mind
Yes.
that today genuine supporters may be there, but tomorrow it may be taken over by the social evil which are coming
No,
forward.
political forces like JP
Sir,
movement
maybe
in
the
Bihar.
youth of today is even not aware about what are the clauses of the Jan Lokpal bill, or what are the clauses about the actual bill that is being proposed, but they have taken to the streets because they are frustrated because of corruption.
But there, somewhere, I think there's a failure of the government also. Maybe the government could place both before the people and trigger a debate. Mr. Vidyanathan Singh, we are running out of time. Now, some people are saying that media is actually driving the civil society. What you're seeing today is not democracy, but mediacracy.
Yes, I have to say.
What is your view on that?
Media definitely has played a greater role to create an awareness.
But is it a positive role, or do you think
No,
they
no,
are
no,
running
no.
down
It
institutions?
is the positive role, and this is expected from the media. You are passing on information, what is happening in the country.
So the media's role is positive.
I-
Mr. Gupta,
but-
what is your opinion? Is the media playing a positive role, or you think they're adding fuel to the fire unfairly?
Partially they are adding fuel to the fire as such. More balanced role needs to be played by the media. Media is very significant today. bringing awareness is very, very important. But at the same time, it has to play in a balanced way and not that you project.
Ratndeep, the role of the media, do you see media as a catalyst for change, or do you think it is a driver towards anarchy?
So media is certainly playing a positive role, but alongside it should also play a balanced role. As I said, that it should not drive the youth to change the entire system into mobocracy. Rather, it should present a balanced view. People should be aware of what is happening, and it should give the actual information.
So are you unhappy with the role of the media as of now? You're not willing to reply to that. Ashutosh, what is your take on the role of the media?
I always say that, I mean, you are confusing the concern of the middle class with the concern of whole of India.
Okay.
I would always make a distinction. One. Second, the media. Who is controlling media? It's the middle class. The media represents the concern of the middle class. And middle class has got a contempt for politics, has got a contempt for the
you making it look like a conspiracy of the middle class as to whatever is happening today.
No, there is a definitive role of the middle class. I would always say, of course, there is a general disenchantment with the politics, but then it's a middle class which is much more, disenchanted with the political processes, and they are looking for alternative routes. Like they are looking towards High Court, they are looking towards Supreme Court, they are looking for legalities, they are looking for a formidable bill. All the lawyers, you can see that who are the members there.
Let me get your view on a point raised by Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Are we moving towards a phase of constitutional reforms where we need to bring about reforms as far as the look and feel of the parliament is concerned, or maybe move towards a different form of democracy?
No, of course, democracy has an inbuilt system of reform. So obviously the reforms would take place. And I'm not trying to sound patronizing, but it's a new breed of politicians. They have come either first generation politicians. So they can't behave like, the politicians of 1960s. So this is a passing phase. You just have trust in the political class. Gradually democracy reform itself. The solution to the democratic problem is more democracy. So we are looking towards that. Our political democracy is becoming far more representative, as I said. It's becoming representative in terms of presence there. But then there is a next course also. And of course, electoral reform has been talked about. Many things can happen.
No, electoral reforms have been talked about. But Dr. Gupta, do we need some kind of constitutional reforms?
Certainly. I mean, I would put it across this way, that the constitution has the inbuilt potential, the mechanism. Only thing is we need to really implement that. That is not being done. And if there is a will political to do that, certainly we will be able to achieve this.
So moreover, the movement against this corruption shows that democracy is deepening and widening. So it's of the success of democracy that such a large movement against corruption has taken place in India.
Well, Mr. Bidwinder Singh, I think Dr. Gupta just mentioned about the political will. I think it is the lack of the political will which is actually driving the civil society to do what it is doing.
Because I feel that the present system of governance and parliamentary democracy has failed to deliver to the aspirations of the people of the country in 65 years. Time has come to revisit and replace the present system, and I think policymakers of our country, they will have to once again go to the Constituent Assembly. We will have to create
set up another
constituent assembly and try to, examine the whole system.
Right. Now, I think that will call for a separate debate.
So
absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us in the debate. If institutions like parliament and state assemblies are being undermined, their members themselves, who took the people for granted, are to blame. With means of communication and connectivity reaching one and all, these institutions must apply corrective measures like possibly a universally accepted Lokpal, or else they could be further marginalized. With that, we end this edition of Prime. We meet again tomorrow with another issue. Good luck and goodbye.